So when it comes to style, let's break down what it is first, right? Because everybody has a different definition of what style is. And I think it is very important to at least establish a number of parameters, some context about what it is that we consider to be style. Now, when it comes to art genres, forms, there are many different styles. You have, of course, the abstract style, you have realistic, you have figurative, you have impressionism, you have cubism, conceptual art, street art, graffiti, etc., etc., etc. There are different styles, and what it basically says is you do something in a particular way, or you design something in a particular way, and that can be within the context of some parameters, in this case art. So when it comes to defining your style, I am not of the school that says do whatever you want. I am not, and I will come later in the video to the point where I believe that doing whatever you want is actually not doing anything at all. So style, art style, you have been busy for quite some time, and you still have not come to the point where you really can figure out what it is that you like, a signature style, right? And that's why you are clicking on this video. You want to know that. Now, as I'm explaining the concept of it, my theory, I am showing another sketch here as I'm here in the studio. I'm back in the studio, people. It's going better and better. And if you want a little bit more of a background story of why I'm so happy to be back in the studio, click on the link here in the corner and I will tell you everything about the physical injury that I had, which did not allow me to go to the studio. Now back to the head subject. I am sketching here in this particular book. And in my book, I make it my mission, and that goes the same for the canvas. I make it my mission to make whatever it is that I want to create as clear as possible. Now, the first point where I started is, what are my interests? What interests you the most? If that is nature, it can be nature. If that is animals, it can be animals. If that is music, dance, color, design, form, whatever you consider to be something that inspires you, and it can be multiple things. It doesn't have to be one thing in particular. It can be multiple things. These are variables that we now can use in defining our style. Now, for me, pour moi, okay? Speaking about myself, for me, that has always been the expression of art. So that means I saw my grandmother on a very young age designing her own clothes and make her own clothing. I have always been into dance. I've always been into music, hip hop, house, reggae, dancehall. I have a very broad collection of music that I like to listen to. Next to that, I love to read. I love to tickle the imagination, and so on and so on. Color also inspires me. Scents, smells also bring me in a certain mood. So I have a number of variables that I can lean into that will make me have a pool of inspiration that I can always grab out of. So that is something important that you can have for yourself. Everybody can determine for themselves what it is that you interest are. What are your interests? Start developing that first. Secondly, the thing that you want to get into is, what can you find in those interests when it pertains to the art form or your creativity outlet that you are creating? All right. Who and or what do you find in your interests that can absolutely make you go, that is something that I love. That is just something that I cannot go around. I get so inspired. I get pumped up. I'm in awe. I just absolutely love it. And the reason why I say the things that you love is because you get more hyped about the things that you love than the things that you don't love. If you keep on focusing on, well, I don't like that, I don't like that, I don't like that, I don't like that, It could be a way, but it's not the way that leads you directly to what it is that you do like. When you go into the direction of what you do like and you start to narrow it down to a couple of things, it's a lot easier and it gets you into the frequency of a more positive outlook, if you know what it is that I'm saying. So look for people and look for things that fall into your interest when it comes to design, when it comes to color, when it comes to music, when it comes to other art forms, maybe TV shows. Maybe you went to some exhibitions somewhere, maybe you went to some museums, some galleries, and certain things about going to a gallery or watching art from other people has inspired you in some particular way. Try to figure out what that is. If you can say it in a couple of sentences, it will help you to create this context around your interests. So a good example of that is, I am interested in the story, the history, but also the present time of people from the Afro-Caribbean diaspora. And in that, I have, of course, my interest that goes to film, music, color, fashion. So anything that has to do with this particular group, I connect it to it. So what you will see in my art, especially when it comes to painting, I use a lot of bold colors because that is very prevalent within the Caribbean and Afro culture. I use Black people, all right? Because those are the people that I'm interested in. I create myself to be a storyteller, but not like an outright direct storyteller. And that kind of has to do with the fact that I've been raised in an environment where my grandmother used to tell stories. So that is also the way that I like to approach my art. It is a setting, it is a scene, and that comes from the place where I just like to watch movies that have a strong cinematic presence. See what I'm getting at? So everybody has that same ability, that same capability of doing the same. First, know your interests, then find out what you like within those interests. Okay? So the third thing that I want you to look at is, yes, you look at other artists, and no, you don't look at other artists. And no, it's hard. And with the amount of images that we are being bombarded with, of course, right now, it is kind of hard not to look at other artists and not be inspired by it subtly or subconsciously. It is a very dangerous, tricky thing when you want to create authenticity around your work and you want people to recognize you for your style. But when you are in a hard spot, in a difficult area where you just do not know what that really is, then it actually does help to look at other artists. It actually does help to look at them and say, well, I like this particular artist because of. An example that I can give in this is, for instance, Kerry James Marshall. The reason why I love his art is because he is a storyteller and he tells a story about people in very everyday type of life. Basically that, in an everyday type of life. And I've used him as an example many times. I've seen his work up and close. He paints large paintings, relatively large paintings. And I think that very much inspired me to do the same thing. And to look at my work also in the same way. So it helps to look at other artists if you really are, quote unquote, lost. Because actually, nobody's really lost. You just haven't, really dived into it yet. You have to dive into it. And so you can do the same. Now, at the same time, when you find what it is that you like, make it to be characteristics, but do not copy the style, because what you nowadays see, especially when you go on Instagram or any other platform, there are a lot of photos and things like that. You see people now imitating people's art just blatantly. I cannot tell you how many fake, ugly Basquiat imitations I've seen, and it's really irking me. It really does. I don't want to, shite on anybody, but if it sounds like I'm doing it, oh well. I'm kind of tired of seeing people doing the Basquiat form over and over again. Man, like, get your own style. Get original. Get original. All right? Another thing that I want to talk about when it comes to style, basically, is the danger of when people tell you what it is and what it is not. It is dangerous. It's a dangerous area. You can't get cut around here. Okay, you definitely can get hurt. And the reason why you can get hurt is because, in essence, nobody can tell you that your style is not good or not relevant or not, you cannot do that, especially if this is your expression. But at the same time, you do want to create a style that is not only something that is your own expression, but is also able to translate to people. The reason why it's so dangerous is that, people are looking at it as if they want to translate their art, their artistry, their creativity to multiple people, like a huge batch of people. And there is where you come into the mainstream. Now, if it's something that you want to do, if you want to create a style that speaks to people, that you can easily maneuver yourself into the mainstream, then yes, you will actually create a style that is easy adaptable to whatever situation that you're in and catches people's attention, right? But you do not get that much leeway to really do what it is that you want to do. One wrong misstep to the left, where you want to experiment with something that you actually really want to discover, people will basically say bye-bye. Okay? Goodbye. So mainstream, yeah, you can do that, but it's not going to be the area where you will have a lot of leeway to discover yourself, to experiment with your style, to better your style, or maybe even try something else. When you are of the opinion, and I am that, I know that I have a style that will not speak to each and every single person, which is fine, but it allows me at least to be, really close to what it is that I want to express and I want to develop further down the road. That will also be a way of being successful. And it can work, actually. I mean, look at artists like Kaws, Kaws, who have a very distinct way of doing their art. It's very unique and people love it. Look at Banksy. Banksy is also to be known to have these very smart, witty, outrageous, street art-based artworks that he shares with the people. Very unique. And what will happen is that it's such a unique thing and successful way of doing art that people will copy it. So that can be a consequence of it. One consequence of it is that nobody really relates to it, or it's just not the time where we are in that people might have a relation to it. So it could very well be that you have developed such a beautiful, great style for yourself, but nobody really connects to it. And the danger that then is around the corner is that people say, well, maybe I have to do something that is more mainstream. Maybe I have to do something and just, go into another direction if this is not working. I can't tell you how to do it, but I'm just, really sketching some scenarios that can be either or, but they will not be both. They definitely won't be both. The exceptions where people are known for their exclusivity of being unique, right? I'm not saying authentic, I'm saying unique in their style. These are definitely exceptions. But the thing about exception is that it doesn't cover up the rule. It doesn't cover up what generally happens. So my encouragement to you would be to at least be open to what it is that you like and not to fall into the trap that you have to go into the mainstream in order to be recognized or in order to get your money. All right. It could be a tough road. That's why I said it can be a very dangerous area to be in. But I think it's very useful to be in that anyway. Because eventually nobody gets to tell you what to do with your style when people catch on to it. You have already been doing it for so long. You have been doing it for quite some time. And I think what will work is when you also find a way to market yourself in that same unique, specific way. When you find both of them, then, the sky's the limit. But if you're just going to hope that people are going to see you just you experimenting in the corner by yourself, then that is, of course, not going to work. You have to have some conviction and some confidence in creating that style. Definitely in this dangerous area where you could go years and years and years and nobody recognizes you, or you could go into the mainstream and people will recognize it, but you might not be fully yourself. And yes, there are exceptions, but I'm the type of person that says I am not going to lead by exception. I have to lead by what works for me, and I have to find a way how I can market that so that people can recognize what it is that I do. Now, here's the thing where I almost come to the point where I say that when you have no ability to create your style, and you do everything and say, well, this is my style, that you're actually doing nothing at all. I'm almost coming to that point. But before I come to that, I want to talk about looking at what it is that you do, that you start studying yourself, you start observing yourself. What is it that you are actually doing? With all that is being said, what is it that you're doing? What makes your work so appealing? What are the things that people say about your work when they see it? Is it the colors that they like? Is it the way that they make them feel? Is it funny? Is it endearing? Is it avant-garde? Is it challenging? Is it extreme? What are the things that people are using? What are the adjectives that people use to describe your art? Because 9 times out of 10, there is where you can find the strength of what it is that you are good at and start to develop your style. Listen to what people have to say about your style. Now, I understand that you might be in a position where you're like, well, I don't know if I'm ready for it. That's fine. But in order to develop your style and you want to show it to people, then you have to be open to what people have to say. So just listen very carefully to what people have to say. Ask for feedback. Let people see your work and ask them for feedback. When you look at this, what does it make you feel? What do you actually really like about it? With all the things that I've mentioned, when you are the type of artist that says, well, I just do a little bit of everything. I don't want to be like a style, and I just do whatever it is that I want to do. I mean, for a select few of people that might work because they really relate to that. And if that works for you, then hey, do what you do, baby. But for most artists, that is not going to work. One thing that will elude you is when you try each and every single thing that is out there to discover what your style is. I want to encourage you to be more critical. I want to encourage you to look at yourself in a more critical way. Study yourself, observe yourself, look at your interests. Who are the people, the things, the objects that interest you? What are the variables of that in your interests? Build context. Build a lane. Build some discipline when it comes to studying those things. Build discipline when it comes to creating those things. You have a lot more success than saying, I'm just going to, try everything and see what sticks. You could do that, but eventually you will be drawn to the things that you love the most. For me, and for what I've shown, I think here on this platform, has been the sketching, drawing, illustrating in my book, sketchbook, but also the painting. Those 2 things have been very prevalent in what I do. And I understand for a lot of people, 2 things can happen. Either they are scared that they get bored, or they just have a fear of really not sticking, grinding to create your craft. This platform is definitely about creating a craft. So if that is not your thing, then I don't think this video is going to be for you, because I'm definitely the person who's going to hammer on the fact that you have to create your craft. I have a practice, and within the practice, I have to create and refine my craft so that I have work that I can say that has a stamp of approval. And that's the way that I work. But it also has to do with the fact that I have had people around me that worked in that particular way. It was expected of me in many different areas of my life that I had to do that in a particular way. I expect it still for myself. So if you have a fear of being, of getting in an area where you're bored or you're afraid to really dig into your craft, then I'm sorry to say, but you just have to create that organization structure and discipline to do it better, to really create a style. Or else you're just going to be on the surface. You're willing to scratch whatever is underneath the surface, right? And don't be afraid to say, this is what I like. This is what I want to, this is what I'm good at. And we can be good at multiple things, because I know I'm good at multiple things, all right? But not everything works for what it is that I do. Whatever other things I do, they have a different avenue, they have a different outlet channel. But when it comes to the paintings and the sketchings that I do, within that, I can do whatever it is that I want, because I have my own style. I have a particular way of doing what it is that I do. I don't deviate from the principles. I keep myself to the principles. And by refining my talents, I can basically play around with it. I can experiment with it. And y'all are following me along with it. And y'all start to see my style. And y'all start to appreciate my style. And so people can do that also with you. Okay, so we came to the end of this video. I hope that you had a lot of information that you can use from this. If you need more about this, then put your comments here below in the comment section box. Here you also can put your questions. I am already starting to think about having courses for 2025 where I will delve deeper into certain subjects and even come with like assignments and research. And I want you to join me as well. So go to the link here in my bio where you can find my website. Sign up for the newsletter, because I will be giving information on it on a weekly basis where you can sign up for courses to join me into this art class. All right? Then I will see you in my newsletter. As for now, thank you so much for watching. Definitely subscribe, like the channel. If you made it so far, you're definitely a trooper, and I really appreciate it. And share this with, of course, with another artist around you, because we know that artists need this information. See y'all soon. Stay safe. Bye, y'all.